Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg has defined this criminal trial of Trump in those stark terms. Our special coverage continues, and our panel is back with Rachel, Nicole, Jen, Alex, and Chris, our legal experts and others joining us shortly. And Rachel, I wanted to start there because so many smart and informed people have debated over the past year plus which accusation against Donald Trump is the worst, which criminal trial should begin first. Most candidates, I should say, in both parties don't stand currently accused of crimes, or not. Most people who are candidates for Congress are not awaiting criminal trials before the election day, just to reset on that. And we wanted to begin with you and that statement from DA Bragg. It's really the only time he's spoken about this in detail when he did announce the charges, because his job is not to compare and contrast the whole country. He says there's evidence of a crime in his jurisdiction, and that's what he says is the only thing he had to think about, and that's why we're here today.
Yeah, and I mean, I think when we think about the timeline here, I mean, I think it's important to remember that these charges, in some ways, have sort of been in the queue. They've been lined up for 5.5 years since Michael Cohen, 5.5 years ago, pled guilty in federal court to federal campaign finance violations that prosecutors said, and Michael Cohen admitted under oath, were committed at the behest of individual one, who was Donald Trump. I mean, this crime was described in federal court with proof to support it nearly 6 years ago. And what happened between then and now that finally, in a whole different court system, in New York State court, Trump is finally being held accountable for a crime that happened so blatantly and so obviously and so long ago. And that saga itself is partly the story of Trump's political power and how he chose to use his political power to protect himself inside the criminal justice system. Part of it is being a serving president when they're not going to bring charges against you. But part of it is also being a serving president who uses his power over the U.S. Justice Department to kibosh investigations and to have federal criminal court documents whitewashed so that they don't give away as much information about him as they otherwise were going to. So this has just been a very long time in coming. The fact that it's taken so long is testament to how Trump has been able to manipulate the Justice Department, the U.S. Department of Justice, and the U.S. criminal justice system broadly to his own benefit. I feel like it's almost a miracle that we got this case into trial at all. The fact that there are 3 more stacked up behind it just tells you about the litany of alleged criminality that this candidate drags with him into this election season.
Well, and to Rachel's point, I mean, Rachel is the person who I feel like I've learned the most on the degree to which Barr and the Department of Justice, acted in a scandalous fashion, right? To hijack the normal processes so that the person named as individual one would not amount to anything. But I also think when you look at the chronology here, there is a clear trajectory and through line, which is the 2016 election was the subject of 2 different criminal conspiracies. This criminal conspiracy, which is pled to by Michael Cohen in a federal court, and the Russian criminal conspiracy, sabotage the election, which has been charged with indictments of Russian foreign nationals who will likely never face justice. No one really in Trump's orbit was punished for that, right? Then he tried to rerun it with Ukraine in the lead up to the 2020 election, which was found out and blown up, and he faced an impeachment trial over it for which he was acquitted. Didn't really face any real accountability. All that leads up to January 6th, when even after losing the election, he attempts again to use essentially whatever means necessary. And whatever means necessary to this man, he's sort of agnostic about the means. I mean, it could be legal, it could be not legal, right? It could be ethical or dodgy or gray area or scandalous, but he's just trying to do whatever he can to obtain power. It's true in 2016 at the sort of fulcrum of the facts of this case. It's true in the lead up to 2020. It's true after the 2020 election. All of that is one story about someone who never faces accountability for his insatiable thirst for power and his willingness to do anything to, quote unquote, win, even after losing. And this is the first of those tales.
Well, and that goes, Nicole, to why the story that the jury and by proxy the country hears is so important. I'm curious what you think, but I would argue that if it becomes only a tawdry tabloid story, you can probably find 1 or more jurors who aren't there. But if it's a democracy story, which is what DA Bragg said, and you just spoke to the evidence on that, it becomes something larger.
It's about cheating, right? I mean, sports just went through one of the biggest stories in a decade with the interpreter for Shohei Ohtani, right, being taken off the field literally for stealing. I mean, it's a crime that everyone can understand. Stealing, cheating, lying. These are easy to understand crimes. And I think the reason Donald Trump has worked so hard to make this one not go to trial is because it's an easy to understand crime. The jury's going to be asked to figure out if Trump did some things that are pretty easy to understand. And back to Rachel's point, the first people that found Trump to be liable as a conspirator was the Bill Barr Justice Department. And Jeff Berman writes about this in his book, how involved DOJ leadership down in Washington was at editing the sentencing memo, which describes Donald Trump as individual one over and over and over again. Michael Cohen paid the money to benefit individual one. Michael Cohen, everything, and again, I'm not a lawyer, but I for some reason always get picked to be on juries. I mean, the jury's going to be asked to look at Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen didn't have the sex with Stormy Daniels. Michael Cohen didn't become president. Donald Trump did. Michael Cohen went to jail. I mean, one of these things is not like the other. And I think the story is a pretty simple story about pretty simple crimes.
Rachel, you've been invoked. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, Nicole, I've heard you say that starkly before about Michael Cohen, and it always weirds me out a little bit, but it's very true in a very fundamental way.
It's super gross, but we're talking about Trump. It's always got a super gross element to it.
My ears are turning red, like I'm getting that little, just, sorry, raised in the suburbs, very Catholic, can't handle it. But the basic idea here is very true. Think about the fact that Michael Cohen went to prison for this. Michael Cohen did not have sex with Stormy Daniels. Michael Cohen was not running for president. Michael Cohen received no benefit from this whatsoever. Why is he the one who is the only one who's gone to prison for it, particularly when it wasn't like he invented this as his own idea to please the boss.
Right.
It's essentially admitted to that the boss advised him to do this, that this was part of Trump's effort to get elected, to keep this information away from the public during the election. It just can't be, as a fundamental matter of fairness. And I think Nicole and Ara, you're both right. As a fundamental matter of fairness, no jury is going to look at this and say, yeah, the one guy who should go to prison for this is the guy who had to zero out his home equity line of credit in order to do this for his boss, because the last time the boss had to pay hush money to another alleged mistress, he stiffed the tabloid publisher who put the money up for him that time. So this time I got to do it. Okay, yeah, you're the one who must be punished. It just doesn't make sense. You can't tell yourself any story about that where there's a crime that has been described and admitted to and litigated in court, and the one who ends up the only one who ends up in jail because of it is Michael Cohen.
Hey everyone, MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.